Comería eso, iría contigo, sería perfecto, me gustaría vivir en España, and these don't sound fully real, they're imagined, possible, hypothetical. And this is exactly what the Spanish conditional tense does. Amigas y amigos, welcome back. This is Profe Juan, and by the end of this video, you'll understand what the conditional tense really expresses, how to form it naturally, and why Spanish uses it constantly in real conversations. And as always, amigas y amigos, not complicated grammar, just how Spanish actually works, right? Before we start, quick reminder, a tense is not the same thing as a mood. A tense mainly shows time. A mood shows attitude or perspective. And today, we're focusing on the conditional tense, not the full conditional mood system, conditional compounds, right? Of course, if you want to understand the bigger structures behind the conditional mood, we already have a full video about that, so you're gonna watch it after this one, okay? So let me illustrate like the most important idea. The conditional tense presents something as hypothetical, imagined, or dependent on another situation. Not fully real, not fully happening. More like under certain conditions, and that's why English often translated with would. Of course. Actually, let's start with the most obvious use, imaginary situations. And we're gonna be using like would to explain this. Look at this. Comería eso. I would eat that. It's not I eat that, not I'm eating that. This is hypothetical, imagine, possible, right? So you may be thinking, okay, Juan, but then how do you translate would? And I would respond, we wouldn't translate would. Let me give you more examples. Yo iría contigo. I would go with you. Viviríamos en México. We would live in Mexico. So what you can see is that to express the same thing as you would, we use it inside of a verb, right? That ending, viviríamos en México. Sería divertido. It would be fun. You have the pronoun it, eso. Would be fun. Would be is not ser, is not es, is sería. And then we have fun, divertido. Notice the feeling. These situations are not fully real. They depend on another reality. And that's the heart of the conditional tense, right? Fantastic. Now, we understand that is mostly how we use would, but we don't have a word for would. We have a transformation of the verb. But now, let's talk about being polite here. Look at this. Quiero un café. I want a coffee. That's correct. That's direct. That's demanding. If you compare this with querría un café, I would like a coffee. Hey, much softer, more polite. So Spanish uses the conditional all the time for politeness, of course. But let me give you more examples. Me gustaría hablar contigo. I would like to talk to you. ¿Podrías ayudarme? Could you help me? And you're like, hey, could you help me, gentlemen? ¿Tendrías un minuto? Will you have a minute? The conditional tense creates distance. And that distance feels softer, less direct, more respectful. Fantastic, right? So the conditional can imagine situations and soften requests. But now, let's look at the structure, right? Let's zoom in that explanation, because this is actually one of the easiest Spanish tenses to form. And those are good news, of course. Let's talk about how to form this conditional. So, the endings, and when I say the endings, are the conjugations of the verbs. Like, the endings are ia, ias, ia, íamos, ian. And here is the most beautiful part. You usually add them directly to the infinitive. So yeah, no more hablamos, no. It's like hablar, hablaría. Comer, and that's infinitive form, right? Comer becomes comería. Vivir becomes viviría. With that accent at the end, with that tone at the end that is ia, ia. Much easier than many other Spanish forms, right? Of course, there are some irregular verbs, but the end stay exactly the same. So we have examples like yo tendría, for the verb tener, hacer, that becomes haría, Poder, that becomes podría. Decir, diría. And you may be thinking, yeah, it's a different root. Yeah, of course, it's a different root. It's a regular verb. But we have the same endings. Now, let's talk about this elephant in the room. One of these elephants in the room, right? Let's talk about conditional versus the future. Compare this. Iré a Mexico. I will go to Mexico. This feels real, expected, likely. But now what if you compare it with iría a Mexico? I would go to Mexico. And this suddenly becomes very hypothetical, depending on something else. And yes, that's the big difference. The future tense tells us, hey, likely, reality. The conditional is, hey, possibility. This is imagined. Right? Fantastic. Let me give you another contrast. Será divertido. It will for sure be fun. Sería divertido. Hey, you're not so sure, but it would be fun. There is a small change, but it's a completely different feeling. And this is why the conditional tense appears everywhere in Spanish, because conversations are full of possibilities and dreams and politeness, imagined situations, and of course, what if, what if ideas. Okay, now let's try to recognize the pattern. Think like this. If you say iré, I will go. This is more real, more certain. Iría is I would go. More imagined, more conditional. And that's the feeling, okay? Little recap here. The conditional tense presents something as possible, imagined, hypothetical, or dependent on another situation. And that's why Spanish uses it for hypothetical situations, dreams, that kind of stuff, right? For example, comería eso, I would eat that, but I'm not eating it right now. Me gustaría hablar contigo, you're very polite. Iría a Mexico, for a possibility, an idea, a dream. At the end of the day, the big idea is the action is not fully real. It exists in possibility. Remember, this is one of the easiest structures in Spanish. Hey, use it and use it wisely. But now it's your turn. Write one sentence in the comments using the conditional tense. For example, yo viajaría a España mañana, pero no puedo. Or for example, me gustaría vivir en México. One sentence is just enough, and don't worry about mistakes. I'll read some of them, and of course, if you want to understand the bigger picture behind the conditional mood, watch our full video about that next, okay? Amigas y amigos, if this helped you understand the conditional tense, like the video. Make sure you're subscribed. Hey, subscribe. And I'll see you in the next lesson. Nos vemos. Chao, chao.